Yeah, saved by the ammo belt.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Now that was. It reminds me of when you got dropped off. I mean, maybe it was somewhere else, but I think it was when you got dropped off here. They couldn't actually land the chopper.
No, they couldn't land.
Yeah, you had to jump off the ski.
Well, actually, I was pushed off.
Pushed off
because where the guy, the helicopter comes in, and there was people on the ground shooting into the jungle, just a few guys, and I didn't think much of it. And so I'm standing on the skid. I'm waiting for the chopper to land, and the door gunner's yelling at me, "Jump out, jump out!" I'm looking down. We're like 8 feet off the ground. I said, "I'm not going to jump. I got all this stuff on my back." And he said, "We're being shot at," and then he kicked me, and out I went. I landed flat on my face.
Yeah. See, and the book is written just like that. How can you possibly recall? Now, I suppose, Arthur, after having written it down and talked about it as much as you have, it's very, very fresh. But when you wrote the book, those memories with you like that, like they just were yesterday? Well,
you have to, believe it or not, I had to really depress myself to get back into this, the Vietnam mode. But I also, I tell a lot of stories. Not tell stories. I share my experiences with a lot of people. So, and then people are always asking, so I'm always jotting down notes. My mother saved every letter that I wrote her, so I had some information there. And my sister also saved all the letters I wrote her, but I wrote my sister different things than I wrote my mother.
Right.
I could tell my sister anything. And so she had all those letters, so I was able to put everything in chronological order and kind of figure out what was going on. And then Howard Signer, again, I talked to him an awful lot during the writing process to make sure I got my story straight, got my facts straight.
And he was there for much of that. So.
Well, he was. He was there for almost the entire year that I was there.
Yeah. Except he got sent to the back there for a while, the coveted newspaper job.
Right. He had a lot of writing experience, and they needed somebody to take over the brigade newspaper. So they asked him, and he went, and that was really devastating to me because Howard was such a common sense guy, and people, even though he was a private or a specialist, he was a lower rank. People respected him because he had such a calm demeanor. He didn't get rattled, and me being a little guy, I had to flex my muscles to give people to help me out here once in a while, and so Howard was just a very calming guy that I missed when he went to the rear.
Yeah.
But he hated it so much back there, he came back to the field.
I know, and I'd forgotten that, by the way, and when I read last night, I'm like, oh, Howard's coming back. It actually picked me up a little.
Yeah. And the poor guy, when he came back, he got wounded.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he got his ticket out that way.
Yeah.
You mentioned the letters, all right, letters from home. I made a note of this because you got the old Dear John, and actually say. In fact, it came more of as a phone call from Hawaii, didn't it?
I tell you, when I went to Hawaii, I had this whole thing planned. I was going to meet my girlfriend, and my sister was going to, come over with her. So, I had some family there as well as my girlfriend. And when I get there, there's a greeting center where all the Vietnam vets can meet their family members. So my sister pops out, so I gave her a hug. I'm looking around. Where's Mary? She didn't come, and I couldn't believe it because the letters were fine. Everything seemed okay. And I guess so. When I got to the hotel, I gave her a call. She says, "Well, you know what? I found somebody else." I was drained of all energy. I actually wanted to go back to Vietnam. I didn't want to be there, because it wouldn't do me any good. I'm in this Hawaiian paradise, and I'm miserable now.
Yeah. Well, you ran into an anti-war protester there as well.
Well, that too. Once I got. I got myself back together a little bit. I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and hang out with my sister. Not that there's anything wrong with her, but I can only kiss and hug my sister so much. I gotta find some companionship. And so I went down to the beach, and I'm not afraid to go up and talk to girls. And one of them happened to be a war protester and accused me of being part of the My Lai massacre. Now I know I got to get out of here. I got to get back to my unit where there's actually some sanity in an insane situation.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring that up is because that's certainly, from your perspective, Art, I'm talking to Arthur Wicknick, Jr. His book is NAMSENSE, Surviving the 101st in Vietnam. You heard headlines from home. You heard from people who would write letters, and maybe even good friends who would change their mind while you're over there fighting. They would change their mind about the war. How did it feel?
actually, I got a letter from a guy that I used to work with, and when I got drafted, and we corresponded a little bit, and then he wrote me this nasty letter that I was part of the evil war machine, and I'm killing kids, and I'm burning houses, raping women. What? And he sprinkled some red dye on us to make it look like blood or something. And I can't believe this. If they only knew, how miserable we are over here in the rain and the mud, somebody shooting at us, the snakes and everything else. That was very, very devastating. It's very depressing.
Yeah.
That's worse than a Dear John letter.
Yeah.
Or maybe not worse, but on the same level. It was just awful.
Yeah, and well, it was kind of the same thing when you came home, wasn't it?
Well, actually, when I came home, I landed at Bradley International Airport, and I thought, Connecticut, things are people aren't going to be. I hear these stories about GIs getting spit on and things, and of course that never happened to me. I'm glad of that. But what happened is when I was in the airport, I looked around. I'm the only guy in uniform. I thought that was a little odd, but I didn't think much of it. So then I went to a waiting area because my cousin was going to pick me up. And while I was sitting there, people kept filing in, I guess waiting for their rides or their next flight. And then when they saw me in my uniform, they flinched. They'd kind of back up a little bit and walk like I had a little force field around me of I don't know, like a disease or something. And they went and sat in different areas. And this went on for about 15 or 20 minutes until all the seats were filled except the one on my left and the one on the right. Nobody would sit next to me. They'd rather stand or sit on the floor. And then that's when I knew. I said, I got to get out of this uniform. I just got to get home and put some civilian clothes on.
Yeah. You can't help but bring that, I suppose, to the narrative in the book either.
No, that's in there. And again, I'm not bitter about that because that was the history of that's what was going on at the time. It was very, very disappointing. And when I think about it right now, I got tears in my eyes. How when I got off the plane, my chest was out. I felt great. I'm alive. I'm not hurt. I'm home, and then nobody wanted to acknowledge me. This is just awful.
Right.